And welcome to the Beyond the Baller podcast, episode 19, proudly sponsored by Annandale Home and Improvements. Thanks again to Gary for his continuous support. Just myself hosting today. Apologies, Tam's missing. We'll say he's working. But I'm proud to announce that we've got a guest on today, we have Rangers captain and Scotland international, Nicola Docherty. Nicola, how are you getting on?
Yeah, not too bad. Very excited to be here and let's get started.
Good stuff. Okay, so big game on the weekend to start with, yeah? Who are you playing on the weekend? Let them all know who you're playing on this weekend.
Yeah, it's a huge game. Obviously, the league this year's been really competitive again. Every season it tends to go to the last day. So obviously we're playing Celtic at the weekend. Huge game because we know that what's within our control is a Champions League spot, because obviously Hearts are 4 points clear at the moment. But you're obviously relying on other favours to help us take it to the last day. But yeah, it's a massive game because we need to focus on us, make sure that we're winning that fixture, because we know that it's a fixture that it's a very hyped one. It's everywhere on social media, and it's almost like who gets the bragging rights on the day. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and hopefully the team's on it.
Brilliant. We're just going to go back to how it all started, Nicola. Okay, so we'll go back to your childhood, basically. Okay, so just a little bit of background about family, where you grew up, and then we'll delve deep into the youth career, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
Just where you grew up first to be ideal.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Falkirk. Probably you'll be able to tell my accent. It's not a typical Glaswegian accent where I live now. But yeah, grew up in a really nice family home. My mum and dad were really vital in my career, I would say. I've got a lot to thank them for, because obviously they're the ones that drove me all up and down the country. But I started off in my back garden, probably what most footballers would say. And then just my love for the game. My dad was like, she's all right, you know. So I started in a thing called mini kickers at Falkirk Stadium. And then just from there, I started to get a little bit better, and there's something that my dad saw. So my dad will probably take a lot of the credit.
Yeah.
And then I obviously joined a boys team, because back then there wasn't many women's football opportunities.
Yeah.
So I played for a boys team called Westfield Colts at the time. And I found that really beneficial, playing with the boys, to be honest. It's a question I get asked a lot. Do you enjoy playing with the boys from a young age? And for me, I did, because I think obviously the physicality part and the faster and strength of the boys made me up my game.
Yeah.
So that's something that I take a lot from. And then obviously when you get a little bit older, you then need to move on, because obviously, and there was girls teams there, so I then went to Falkirk, and the coach that I'll always be thankful for is, and I call her out every time, and it was a woman called Alison Mackey. And she was amazing for my career. She's the one that took me up to the first team as well, when I joined the first team when I was 16, and that was really young back then. And it all kind of took off from there. That's probably like my childhood memories, just playing with Falkirk from a young age, and that's where I got like my first Scotland debut as well, like under 15s, under 13s. So I've got a lot to thank Falkirk for, certainly.
So what did your dad have any kind of football background? Was your dad a good player, or your mum played, or anything like that? How did the love of football actually come?
Well, my dad claimed he was good at football, but
right,
I'm not sure. I've been to
you
my
never seen any highlights of him?
No, I've been to my dad's pub before, and they've pretty much said that he wasn't the best.
Right,
so
okay.
I always say that my dad collected oranges for the boys at half time. But no, to be honest, my dad's always been into sport. He loves watching every sport, but he's been a Rangers fan since he was a young kid, so he then transferred that onto me. Just the love of the game. It certainly came from my dad. My mum is just always a supportive one.
Yeah.
No matter if I've had a good or bad game, my mum thinks I'm brilliant.
Is your dad hard?
My dad's always been hard on me, to be fair. But I know that it comes from a good place. So I know if I've not performed too well, I didn't really get a text from my dad.
Right.
And it says, and that's when it means more when I do get a text from my dad, because then I know that I've had a good game.
Is that even to this day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, to this day. And sometimes because I'm my worst critic to my own individual performances, just how I am as a player and the mentality that I've got. And I know that if I've had a poor game, and sometimes I'll avoid go visiting because I can't be bothered talking to my dad
so
about it
the lecture,
because then I get the lecture of what were you doing there? What were you doing there? But I know that it comes from a good place because he has standards that he knows that I can get to as well. So we've had a few fallouts, and I've told him to shut up a few times. To be fair,
I like that. In terms of like the travel, then was it joint? Was your mum and dad always going to training for
both of them?
Right,
yeah,
okay.
both of them.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Both of them, yeah, they've been incredible throughout my career. Even when I joined Rangers when I was a young kid, you obviously have to drive from Falkirk to out Mulgai where the training centre is, and late nights. Because back then we trained late. It was all after the boys have been done.
Really?
Yeah, so you wouldn't be getting home back to Falkirk till like maybe 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And then I'd have like other things.
And what
on.
age was that at?
I was at Rangers when I was about 17.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it was
late nights.
Late nights. So every session, mum and dad both driving through.
So before we went into Rangers, when we were at Falkirk, sorry, we'll go back to the boys' club actually. Was there any kind of like adversity at the time? Was there a separate challenge because you were a girl playing with boys back then, or was it all very welcoming from the coaches and everything else?
I remember my first session with the boys. There would be a few comments, obviously, like, "Oh, why have we got a girl in the team? Why have we got a girl in the team?" And my dad had warned me before joining, this is probably what it's going to be like, but you just need to show what you're about. As a young player, when I was really young, I was quite techie and I was a bit of a dribbler. I wouldn't say that about me now. Now I just I'm completely just a defender now, right? But I was a bit different back then. I was like little dribbler and stuff, and my teammates then started to realise, oh, Nick Doc's actually pretty good.
Yeah, she can play.
So my team kind of then welcomed me in, and I had a great relationship with all the boys that I played with. But then it was when you would then go play the opposition. That's when, they've got a girl on their team, and they would all just like have a bit of banter on the pitch. And to be honest, that's something that I quite like. To be honest, I was like, next one's getting smashed.
Good.
To be fair.
Did they ever have an issue with tackling you? Because when we coach, obviously I'm a coach as well. Sometimes I see when boys face girls in 1v1 duels, say, sometimes some of them are a little bit hesitant to go in for tackles against girls, and I don't know whether that's that fear of, I don't know, almost like they're going to hurt them or something. But was that ever the case when you were growing up, or the boys quite happy to smash into you with tackles?
I don't know if it's a generational thing, but when I was playing with the boys, it was it was all or nothing, yeah. Which I appreciate, because
Definitely.
I wouldn't want.
You don't want to treat any differently.
I wouldn't want to be treated any different, like you say, and everybody plays football, and I get it. Maybe now, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've not been around that situation, but certainly when I was playing, it was full on.
Brilliant. What would a normal week look like at the boys' club? Tell me what like a training week could look like, and then your game on a weekend. How many times a week did you train for your boys' club?
It was one or two.
Right. Okay.
1 or twice a week.
And then what would you do with that? Would you do your own separate individual stuff with your dad, or at the park?
I was literally at the park every day, every single day. There's a grass pitch over the back of my house, and it's got two of the 7-a-side goals. I would literally take cones over and just practice by myself.
Wow.
Because I was just obsessed with being better, and I don't know if it's because I was playing against boys. I was like, I need to be on my A game or whatever. But I literally trained, and I had a ball at my feet every single day when I was a kid.
And at that moment, did you think? What age was this, Nick? About 8 or 9, around that age?
Something like that, yeah.
Did you think that there was a chance for you at the time, or did you just dream that you'd wanted to be a football player? Because I think we're right in saying at that time in Scotland, the women's game wasn't nowhere near the size it is now.
No.
So in terms of a full-on career, it was probably quite a dream to even have a career in football at that time, because women's football wasn't professional, I believe, was it? It was just up and coming, wasn't it? So was there ever a dream to be a footballer, or was you just, I just want to get better against my boys that I'm playing with?
I think that's absolutely it. Obviously, when you think back to the generation where I was from, there was absolutely, you would think there was no chance. Yeah. I always had a dream, I would love to be a professional footballer. In the back of my head, I always, that's all I wanted. It's all I ever knew growing up as a kid. But being realistic, it was just about, can I beat the boys' team on the Saturday or the Sunday or whenever it was? That was literally.
But you're playing for the love of it, aren't you?
Yeah,
I always
100%.
I think that there's so much pressure on the kids now, boys and girls, and I coach a lot of the girls who are at Rangers and Celtic, and the pressure of them, even at the age of 10 upwards, it's like astronomical. And it wasn't a thing when we were kids. I don't think there was any pressure for me to play football. I just played and I loved it. And I was like, if I ever get the chance to go and play at the top level, brilliant. But I never actually felt the pressure. I think these kids have got pressure on them from such a young age in the academy system now.
And I think a lot of that comes from, this new generation is social media. So all the kids have got social media at school, for example, and you're seeing so many things online. And I think maybe that's partly where the pressure can potentially come from. When I was younger, I didn't really have any pressure because maybe it's because the women's game's maybe getting bigger, and there's a lot more people talking about it. So maybe that is a thing. But I think it is true. Like, I've seen it myself. Even I done a Q&A with the Rangers kids in the academy last week, and it was just like asking questions, and they had so many questions, and I just said, literally play with zero pressure at this age, because see, when it gets to my level, that's when the pressure becomes, that's when it's actual real.
So true. Yeah.
So like, when you're a young kid, just embrace it, enjoy it, and play freely, because I think sometimes we try and make kids to be robots,
mini pros,
whereas it's like, just play with freedom. I think of that kid when I was young, over in the back garden, I'd be doing all the tricks in the world that I would never attempt today. But that's football, that's young football, and that's something that I genuinely believe that could really help the kids of today. Less pressure environment. So
what age did you go in with the Falkirk girls? When was that?
So I joined when it's, so basically I think it's when you got to 12 or 13, you were no longer allowed to play with the boys.
That's right, yeah.
So that's when I joined. So I must have went to the under 13s first, and then obviously 15s, 17s. So
and because you've had that boys club experience, did you go in there and you didn't really... What was different? Sorry, that's probably a better way of putting it. What was different between Falkirk girls and the boys team you were with? Did you feel any difference technically? Obviously, the physicality side, you'd been well established with it, with playing with boys anyway. But when you went in with the girls, what did you notice that was a little bit different from playing with the boys club? Was it different?
To be honest, like, when I think back, I don't think there was too much of a difference. It's probably maybe just feeling that extra bit comfortable because you're playing with all females basically, and it genuinely felt like, oh, you're now part of an actual team. Like, obviously with the boys you can win things, etc., but with the girls, like, you knew that there's that league, there was the cups, and just that wee bit extra motivation of playing with an all girls team, and Falkirk as well. Like, for me, Falkirk was a big club. As for me, in my early part of my journey, it's a place where I've grew up, so it was pretty spectacular. Yeah.
And were you training at the stadium as well at the time?
We trained at Sunnyside. It was a place out in Falkirk. It was grass pitches, and that's where the games were as well. I've done a few sessions at Falkirk, done a few at Little Kerse as well, where the men used to train. Okay. But a lot of it was at a place called Sunnyside, and that's probably where I scored the majority of my goals in my career, and that's where it ended.
Do you think you missed out on a lot of your teenage years because of football? Because at that time, did you put all your effort into becoming a footballer? So once you hit the Falkirk girls team, is that when you thought, listen, I'm going to put all my effort into this now?
Oh, you sacrifice so like actually so much of your life to football. And I'm glad that I did, because you obviously look back in your career and you think, even the age that I was at when I was at Falkirk, people would be parties, going out and whatever. But I just genuinely was obsessed with football. Like, I couldn't care less that my pals were away somewhere else. And that's probably where I then lost some of those friendships that I had when I was a young kid. And don't get me wrong, like, I speak to people that I went to school occasionally, but like, I wouldn't change anything. Like, I've sacrificed a lot for football to get to where I am today, and I have zero regrets about that.
Do you think, we ask every single guest this, do you think that's a nature or nurture thing? Do you think a parent can create a football player, or do you think you always had that in you deep down, but you just probably didn't even realise that you wanted it that much?
I probably didn't realise that I wanted it that much. I think when I think back to that little kid that was kicking the ball about in the garden, I probably wouldn't know back then, but I think my dad certainly encouraged and nurtured, like you say, to be like, you're pretty talented. They were never pushy parents. They would never say, this is what you're going to do, you're going to go to this club. Every decision I've made has been a choice, and it's been my decision. I would always ask my dad for advice, and I know it would be honest advice, but they've never pushed me into any sort of decision, and I think that's credit to them, because I think a lot of parents do that with their kids, and I think it should always be the player's choice on what happens next.
Yeah, I think you've got it the right way. I think the advice needs to be there. I think you need to seek advice from an adult, but I think you can't make them. We say it all the time. We work with some of the best players in Glasgow, 100% with you, but they want to be there.
Yeah.
They're not forced. I always look at the kid's face, see when they're running, and I always look, if it looks like an effort for them to be that, I'm like, this isn't the right environment for you.
Yeah.
See, if they're smiling on the ball, you know they're loving life in football.
Yeah.
And it should be like that.
Absolutely.
Like you said, the pressure comes when you hit pro.
Yeah.
Because you're under pressure like constantly, especially at Rangers or Celtic. If you're one of them two, that's pressure.
Yeah. 100%.
I just want to go back to the time when you were playing with Falkirk, Nicola. What was the infrastructure of girls' football at the time? How many other girls' academy teams was it? Or did you even play girls' academy teams at the time? How did that look?
I don't think there was an academy. There was an under 13s, under 15s, under 17s, and then senior.
Right.
That was it. So you would literally just play for your age group, and then when the time came, if you were good enough, you would move up. If you were good enough, you would then move up.
And what was the opposition like at the time? Did you have was obviously Rangers established at the time? Was Hibs established at the time? Was there any other girls' academy, or did you not really play them?
13s or 17s. No, do you know what? I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
So what kind of who were you playing at the time? What was the opposition like? Would you play boys' clubs at the time or not?
No, you would just play girls up. It would be like Boroughmuir, Muirston,
right? Okay.
East Kilbride, all those sorts of teams. But
Right,
there was
okay.
never a generally. You're asking me, and I'm sitting here. I actually can't see. No, I don't think I played Rangers when I was at Falkirk.
Right. Okay.
Maybe potentially senior, but no 17s or that, because it was literally nothing when I was younger.
See today's generation, so the girls that you spoke to last week then at the academy and boys, do you think they understand what your generation had to go through for girls football to get it established? Because when I done the research for this episode, you were heavily praised. I don't know if you've done this yourself, you probably don't do that yourself, but you were heavily praised on where I was researching for the influence you've probably had in Scotland for the women's game and the girls' game. Do you think that they realise how much harder it was for yourselves to establish yourself as a professional footballer in the girls' game? I know that's a tough question, and I don't want to put you on the spot with that, but
well, I've never asked. I've tried to share my story and my experience of what we had to go through. Certainly, the girls at my current club know that where I've came from to get to where I am now was crazy. Some of the stuff we've had to go through in the journey, but I don't think the younger kids maybe don't realise what we've actually had to go through to get to where we are, and I'm actually glad that the kids don't have to go through that journey, because I think the opportunities for young girls and boys is massive. There's so many opportunities, so many individual performance, technical coach that will take individual kids to help them get better. I never had any of that. I was coaching myself out in the back garden, do you know what I mean?
So playing devil's advocate though, do you not think that grounded you more and made you more hungry?
Maybe things are handed to kids more, where there's opportunities given rather than earned. But when I look at the academy at Rangers and the young kids that I've got coming through, unbelievable
Special,
talent,
aren't they?
huge, because they're learning things I wasn't taught when I was a kid, like scanning, play on the back foot, like all the small details that you now know, like in my experience. But like they're literally taught that from
Really
5-6 years old maybe. So the talent that's come through is crazy.
So would it be fair to say that the coaching back when you played was much less detailed than what they're experiencing now? Would you say that's probably a fair
100%,
statement?
and I don't feel bad for saying it, because literally these coaches were volunteers. They weren't getting paid. They were taking time out their busy work schedules to allow us to enjoy an environment to grow and develop as a young person. And the coaches, like I've mentioned, Shirley Martin, Alison Mackey, they're pivotal in my career. Literally just giving up so much of their time for us to go and turn up and train for an hour a night, taking us to tournaments in Manchester, all not paid.
Yeah.
So I think I have so much like thanks to give to them, that they did that for young girls who just love football.
It's all for the love of the game, isn't it?
100%.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Do you think because it wasn't all given to you at a young age, do you think that's made you more mentally resilient? And do you think maybe with this current generation again that they might not have the same mental resilience as what your generation did?
I think the game has changed a lot.
In what way, Nicola? In what way do you think it's changed?
I would say in terms of, so me learning, so I've worked on myself a lot. Certainly being a captain and stuff, and the way you speak to people, I think it's different now. Like the game's completely different compared to when I was young, in my younger days at Glasgow City, for example. You would literally just scream and shout at each other.
Yeah, don't ruin that. That's coming soon.
Sorry, but just like demanding,
Okay.
standards, but just in a different way. Whereas now it's like it's more. Not that wasn't constructive feedback, but there was just a lot more demand. Whereas I think I try a lot to like speak to players in a different way because I know the generation's different.
Mm-hmm.
They've maybe not had to come up through the same level of scrutiny that I did as a young player. So I was used to that. So I've changed myself and how I speak to people based on the new generation that's coming through. Because I need to know how to get the best out of someone. And if I think shouting at someone's not going to get the best, then I've completely changed that in myself and how I speak to people.
Well, it was a one shoe fits all when in our younger days, wasn't it? Everyone was spoke to the exact same way, regardless of position, regardless of ability, regardless of your emotional ability to handle that much scrutiny.
And that's why I think the game has changed because it's completely different, and that's fine. You literally just need to do what gets the best out of a player. If that's an arm round the shoulder and taking them away and be like, well, this is how I would have done it, like a constructive feedback conversation. If that gets the best out of them, then do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Some people need a rocket, don't they?
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do, and previous coaches know that for me. Like, if I've no at the first half, if I'm off it, I've had a few half time, and then see the second half, different player, different person on the pitch. Sometimes I need that, and all my teammates know that as well, that I can handle a little bit.
That's good. Okay, so let's stick with the Falkirk situation. What age was it when Rangers came looking? What age was that?
I joined Rangers when I was 17. I was playing first team football for Falkirk at 16. And I remember one of the boys, Peter Kennedy, Gary Gibson at Rangers.
Yeah, I know both of them.
I'm pretty sure it was them two that scouted me to come to Rangers. But yeah, I mean, it was almost an instant decision.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I went and spoke to my dad. Dad being a Rangers man,
it's a no-brainer.
It was an easy one for him because I knew I was only going to get one answer to him. You weigh up the pros and cons. The pros are all, I'm a Rangers fan. I just wanted to go to the training centre because I knew it's the same place as the men trained. I was like, Dad, maybe we'll get to see some of the Rangers players.
So when you were growing up, was there any girl footballers that you were looking up to, or was the majority men because of how established the men's game was at the time?
But to be fair, there was two. Julie Fleeting, unbelievable person and player, like capped the amount of caps that she's had for Scotland, the stint that she had at Arsenal, very successful. And then Kim Little. Like, if anybody who doesn't know Kim Little, then there's something wrong. So those were my two, but my hero growing up was Mikey Moss. I always say if he didn't get injured, he would have been special.
He's special anyway.
I've met him a few times. Right. Great guy, like super nice, humble guy.
Seems to be around the club a lot still as well. He's like an ambassador role as well. That's good. So when you went into Rangers, was that straight into the first team, or did you have to? Because I know you said the pathway was like 2-year gaps almost. Was that just straight into the first team at Rangers? Yeah. And what was that like? What was the difference between Falkirk and Rangers at the time?
Just
ability level.
First and foremost, the training centre. You're obviously training at the training centre. I was used to training on muddy, grassy pitch, the sunny side. No matter what the weather was, you were training. Which obviously we would be anyway, but I just mean the state of the pitch. Like, some of it was unplayable, but here we were just training away.
Makes you touch better, eh?
Exactly. Oh, I'll tell you what, first touch of tackle. But yeah, the facility, obviously, for one. I just remember that day driving him, my dad, through the blue gates, and I was just like, I was took aback because I was just like, whoa, this is next level, Dad. And obviously the ability, you're playing. No disrespect to my ex-Falkirk teammates, but when you obviously go up naturally levels, you're going to see that natural progression of players.
And how many days would you train a week with Rangers women at the time?
It was maybe 3 nights a week. 3 nights a week, I think it was.
And then what would the session look like at the time? Because I still want to go, but this was still, I don't want to make you sound old here, Nicola, but that's, what's that, like 17 years ago?
Maybe something like that.
So 17 years ago, what did a session look like at the time? Who was the manager at the time?
So it was Peter and Gary that brought me in. I had Scott Allison as well. I had a couple actually. I had Scott Allison, John Joyce.
Was there any female coaches there at the time?
No. So I had guys. It's all been guys at Rangers at that age group. It was like Gary Gibson, Peter Kennedy, Scott Allison, and John Joyce. That's the 4 coaches that I remember off the top of my head that I'd worked with at that time.
Do you think it was difficult for a female to become a coach at that time?
Yes.
Why?
I just think it's always been a very male-driven sport, so I think the opportunities for females to become coaches then it just wasn't really possible. And I don't think coaches could aspire to be that because the opportunities weren't really there. You obviously look at Falkirk, for example, it was an all-girls setup. So it was girls coaches, it was all girls teams. There was no like Falkirk boys, Falkirk girls at the age groups that I was working with. So I think the opportunities weren't really there. So if you can't see something, then you can't really be it. That's the kind of motto that I see by that.
So what was the environment like then? Because if you had female coaches at Falkirk and then you went into, I know you've worked with boys, so you've had it, there'd be a lot of girls that maybe didn't have that exposure to playing boys football and been around male coaches, if you like. So maybe most of them have been through a system where for 7 years, say for youth career, it's all been like a female coach, and then to step into an environment where it's a male who's the head of it. Was there any difference, in your opinion? Not good or bad, just was it different to have male coaches rather than female coaches?
Well, I think it was very similar to the coach that I had at Westfield Colts back then. Obviously, a lot better coach at Rangers.
Course,
obviously, you're at that club for a reason. But I always thought there wasn't too much difference really. I quite enjoyed working with the coaches that I had. I don't really determine male or female. I just think whoever's a good coach is a good coach. You're a good coach. Simple as that.
And what was the state of the women's league then? How did that look at the time? When you first went to Rangers, what was the leagues looking like?
Oh, we were rotten. Nowhere near it.
Right, okay.
Rangers, nowhere near it.
Because Glasgow City dominated for a while.
Yeah.
A long time, but still.
Yeah, obviously I was. Yeah, obviously I was part of that.
Part of that, but at the time,
but
was Glasgow City the force to be reckoned with at the time when you went into Rangers?
Yeah, and I think Hibs were there about as well. Hibs and Glasgow City were certainly the 2 teams that were the most successful at that time, and it's hard to say because obviously it was a dream going to Rangers at that time, and I personally believed the standard was obviously a lot better where I was, but then we were still miles off it. And I don't know if that's because maybe we didn't sign enough key players to obviously compete, but that takes time, and obviously you see over the years that we've eventually got there, but we were nowhere near it back then.
Who was like the best player at the time when you went into Rangers? And you can say yourself as well if you want.
I wouldn't say that.
Who was the best player, the standout when you first went in there? Which we went in that change room, he was like not just the captain but like the standout player at the time.
Rangers.
All the girls are dying for you to say the name here, aren't they?
Yeah. To be fair, there was a few. There was obviously Lana Cleland, who's playing in Italy now. She's pretty much fluent in Italian. Jane Somerville, who's the skip then, who would smash anybody.
Would she?
You needed shinnies on in training with Jane. She was a great leader. They're names that instantly come to me, who were top players for the club. They just needed a bit more key players back then. But certainly those 2 are thereabout, and there was probably more, but jogging my memory back then, I'm like...
We've skipped ahead here because we've missed out Scotland caps, because if I'm right in saying you picked up for Scotland when you were at Falkirk, yeah?
Yes, that's when I got my
What
first...
age group was that, under 15s?
Under 15s, yeah.
What was that like going into a camp with Scotland?
I was terrified.
Was it?
Aye. Well, it was actually, I'm mentioning her again, but Alison Mackey had contacted Tony Gervais at the time, who was the manager, and was like, I've got one to watch at Falkirk. You need to come along, have a wee look at her. I didn't know that was happening at the time until I read it in the paper. Mum and Dad actually showed me that paper article a few years ago, and it was like Nicola Docherty, one to watch. And then I remember getting a phone call for Alison at the time, and she was like, "Oh, you've been selected for the trials up at McDermott Park." And I was like, "All right, okay, wow." Like, not expecting anything. And I was just like, "Dad, what? Scotland?" He was like, "Aye." I was like, "Right, okay." So it was trials up at McDermott Park, and I've turned up, and I think it was just like a squad game that we were playing. And I says to my dad, so basically after you do the squad trials, you go into this room, and it's like your name's like picked out or whatever to tell you that you're going. That's how it was back then, right? And I've came out after it. I was like, Dad, I was rotten the day. Well, let's just go home. So I've jumped in the car, and I've not went in because I was just not expecting. And then Sheila Begbie at the time, who was part of the SFA, she comes running into the car and was like, "Nick, where are you going?" I was like, "Oh, I was rubbish, I'm going home." And then she was like, "No, you're selected." I was like, and I think I just burst out greeting. I was like, "What? Really? I was rotten?" And that's how I got my first call up. I've actually jumped in the motor and ready to head back down to Falkirk. I think I was not getting selected, and Sheila Begbie came in and said I was going. And it was the first trip to Wales. That was their first trip. You met at the airport. So my mum and dad have obviously took me to the airport, and then you get given your tracksuit when you're there. It was like the old school white one with the blue trousers. Turned up, they gave me my kit, and oh my God, the size of it. I was just this wee skinny runt, right? Literally tiny, and I've got this oversized trackie on.
Wearing a tent.
Yep, and I've got the trackie on in the room, and my dad's like, "Right, you need to go down and meet the team." I was like, "Oh God, I was honestly
so
bricking it." Absolutely.
Must have been such a proud moment for your mum and dad, though, eh?
Oh, huge.
It's been massive, that, because that's just a young girl, and it's like anyone on the journey, young girl or boy, they've just wanted to play football, and then all of a sudden they've put that much time and effort and sacrifice, and the parents have as well, and to go and get selected for Scotland, that's...
Oh, it was huge. Everybody's ears must have been burning at my dad's pub, like literally they've been chatting. But I remember walking down, right, and I've got this massive trackie on, and I'll never forget it. Jenny Beattie, obviously Scotland, Arsenal legend. She was the first person that came over and was like, "Hi, I'm Jenny, nice to meet." And seeing that moment, it just made me feel so much more relaxed. You know, when you walk into an environment, nobody's really speaking, you're just kind of like awkwardly standing there. Because the first trip, you're flying away with the squad, like away from my mum and dad for the first time. Yeah. And that moment, Jenny just made me feel so comfortable, and that was literally my first trip away, and I scored that trip actually.
Brilliant.
I scored. I'm pretty sure the girls didn't think I was that good, right? Because I didn't really speak to too many people when I was there, and then I just remember scoring this top bins, and then all of a sudden everybody was like chatting to me. Nick, what's happening?" I was just like, "Oh, right, that's me, I'm in."
So sticking with the Rangers journey then, how long did you stay at Rangers before Glasgow City came about? How did that happen? Tell us how long you stayed then, and how did the move happen?
So I must have been at Rangers, you can maybe correct me more if you know, because thinking back, I should have probably done my research before I came on. It must have been about 3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years. And Eddie Willecki Black, who was Glasgow City at the time, he was the head coach at Glasgow City, and they were the superior by this point. And I just remember him contacting and saying that we're really interested. Talked to my dad, obviously, because I didn't have an agent back then. My dad was like, "Glasgow City's interested," and I was like, "I'm not leaving Rangers."
Well, that was going to be my next question. For a lot of people who maybe aren't too familiar with the women's game, if you said you're going to leave a Rangers or a Celtic to join Glasgow City, everyone would be like, "What?" But people don't realise the size of Glasgow City
Huge.
At the time. They were monsters, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Literally won everything. And the first time Eddie asked me, I was like, "Nah."
Really?
No leaving Rangers. Oh, it took. That's when the next part comes. So I was like, "Dad, nah, I want to stay at Rangers. I love it here." but I was probably being quite naive, that I was probably at a really good level, that I was ready to make that
The jump, yeah.
that jump. But I think a part of me was a bit like, well, I don't know, Dad, and probably like that thing that I had with Rangers, just being a fan, took over me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then seasons went past, and then Eddie's came back and, Nick, you need to come to Glasgow City. And I remember I was like, right, Dad, we'll meet him, because he had asked if we could meet him. So we met him at the Falkirk Stadium at the Amarillo pub upstairs, and he's brought this black suitcase. I'll never forget it. Opens up the black suitcase and was like, what do you want to win in your career? And it was literally all the Glasgow City winners' medals over the years. And I'm just looking at that and was like, oh, Dad, I want a bit of that. And that's literally what convinced me.
The best marketing speech I've ever heard in my life.
Tell you what, opened up the wee black suitcase that's got the code and all that on it, and it's literally just medals. He was like, do you want to win in football? I was like, aye. He was like, well, this is where you do it. And I was like,
yeah,
right, okay. And then meeting finished, went home, spoke to my dad. He was like, Nick, if you want to make it to the next level, that's the team you've got to go to. And that says a lot for a Rangers man. But being realistic, Rangers were nowhere near that level yet, and it was going to take them years to get to that level. So
at the time, if we're going to be honest, at the time of that move, did you ever see Rangers catching up with Glasgow City?
No, unless
Right, okay.
they went professional and started to really take the women's game seriously. No.
So people probably don't even know that as well. Were you working elsewhere at the time also?
Yeah. Well, I was at college.
Yeah.
So I was studying. So I was at college. So yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And at the time, were Glasgow City, they were playing in Europe at the time, is that correct as well? Yeah. Was that a big move for you as well, to think I need to go and challenge myself against the best of the best?
100%. Being realistic, if I wanted to make it to the next level, that was a team to go to. Glasgow City.
Am I right in saying before you left, were you part of the first women's team to ever play at Ibrox?
Yes.
Was that 2010?
Was it?
I've done research here. Look.
Was it?
Yeah. First match at Ibrox in the women's team.
Yeah.
Was that a pivotal moment for Rangers women, do you think?
I mean, the pictures weren't great because the oversized kit that we used to wear was absolutely criminal. We looked terrible. I remember the pictures for that day, honestly. It was shocking.
I'll get that clipped, the pictures. Was that a big deal then, playing at Ibrox?
Of course, yeah. Of course. Playing at Ibrox, Rangers fan since a young kid, and walking out was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely incredible. Loved it. That was huge for the club back then.
That's what I mean. Was it really a pivotal moment?
That was, yeah. But nothing happened after that. So it's took Rangers
a
long time to get to where they are now.
See, at that time in women's football, what was the advice for nutrition and recovery and stuff like that? Because if this is 15, 12 years ago, what was the sports scientists around at the time at Rangers? No,
maybe for the boys set up, but we never had any of that stuff. No.
What about Glasgow City? When you went there, was it more professional?
Oh yeah, professional, but no professional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
professional setup, but not
professional setup. Yeah. Everything you would even know about the player. Like I remember going to one of the girls' houses, and we were like, and it was a match day -1. It was like, no, this is what we need to eat before the game. And I was just like, oh God, they all speak about food and that. I was like, what's going on here? Like I was clueless.
You're right, Mackie's.
I was clueless. Like literally, see at Falkirk on a match day, I would have a roll and sausage and tatty scone, and I would go and score a hat trick. But obviously, you can't do that now. But like when I was younger, I never had any sort of advice. And to be fair to my mum and dad, like they would always give me nutritious meals, but like they wouldn't know what I need as a footballer. Like that's just, it wasn't really, do you know what I mean, really spoken about back then. So I probably played my better football when I had a roll and sausage. But no, when I went to Glasgow City, like everything was professional. Like I was just like, wow. I remember my first session, that was
completely different.
It was when I first went and we were in the car park, I think it was bad weather, so we were training at the indoor place, the one that's on the motorway. It's Fives.
Soccer World.
I think that's where my first session was because
Right,
of the
okay.
weather conditions. Oh my! I was blown away.
Where?
I was blown away with the intensity, just the way they moved the ball. Like
Couldn't get a touch.
I got into the car after it and I was like, Dad, I'm so unfit.
Did you feel out your depth technically or not?
Probably, yeah. I would say so. I think I had to do a lot of sessions at Glasgow City and a lot of training for the coaches on how to get the best out of Nick, because I was miles off it. I don't know why they wanted to sign me actually.
No, that's what I'm saying. He must have rated you the way. He must
Yeah,
have rated you to bring
there
you
was
in.
there was some sort of raw talent in me back then for sure, but I had to work a lot to catch up with the rest of the City girls, I would say, and that's being purely honest.
So see now, so as we speak right now, as the captain of Rangers, has your game completely changed since that first session at Glasgow City, or have you still got some of them attributes that you maybe showed in the session? Not to say obviously you got ran ragged a little bit on your first session, but has your game completely changed now, do you think, since that first session in terms of your ability as a football player?
100%. I would say that coach at that time at Glasgow City literally developed me into the player that I am today. Those sessions at Glasgow City, like genuinely, the detail of the coaching was unbelievable. Some of the best I've had up until this day.
Really?
And I've got great coaches now, and I've had great coaches the last couple of seasons, but he was top, just in terms of just what we touched on back, what kids get back then. Like, I would pass the ball to someone, and there would be pressure coming for your right hand side, and I'd be passing it to that foot, and he'd be like, no, stop, like, play safe side, bounce, scan, just all the simple stuff that I just didn't get at the clubs that I was at previously. So I was almost like learning again how to be a footballer off the basics, because that is the basics.
Why do you think that was so different? Why do you think, was it Eddie, did you say the coach?
Eddie.
How come Eddie was getting that much detail put into Glasgow City? And I know what you're saying about they were the elite of the Scottish Women's League, but how did he get it so right and the others were struggling to catch up with that, do you think? Because that's probably been around for God knows how long, especially in the males game, as it's obviously been established for a lot longer. But how do you think they got it so right so early compared to the rest? Funding maybe, or?
Eddie always, he wanted us to play like Barcelona.
Right.
And a lot of his coaching was based on Spanish tiki-taka.
Wow.
And the sessions that you would do would be literally tiki-taka. You had to, before the session even started, we had to get 500 touches of the ball, you and your partner. It would literally just be you and your partner. Each of us have to get 500 touches before the session even started. Wow. And literally just was obsessed with Spanish football. Even we would be playing a game and there was code words on what he would want us to do, but he would shout on in Spanish. I was just like, so he was probably someone that brought that success to Glasgow.
What's he doing where's he at now?
Eddie had a bit of an illness, to be fair, so he's away for the game, I'm sure. I don't know where he is now.
He sounds absolutely valuable.
But he went to Airdrie,
right, okay.
Men, I think that's where he was after the women's game. But he was at the club a lot of years, and it was probably time for him to move on. But yeah, he was a top manager.
It's pivotal for your career then.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So what, apart from them being monsters of the Women's League, what separated them? Was it the mentality? Was it the standards in training, professionalism? What do you think separated them from the rest at the time, apart from obviously winning trophies?
Probably mentality. And I think the players that they had in the dressing room at that time, and then you've obviously got Laura Montgomery and Cass, who are the owners of the club. You've probably heard the story before. They started the club with a baggy balls, completely invested in women's sport, and it was a club that was just purely women. So all focus was on the women. There was no other things that were going on the outside. It was literally, this is all about us.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years I've managed to get a more structure in the academy and stuff like that, but I would say probably the professionalism, they were the top at that for sure. And it's those two, Cass and Laura, that I've touched on. They're the ones that started the club, and you look at the players that have came through the system at Glasgow City and then went on to play for Arsenal, like huge clubs like Emma Mitchell, Lisa Evans, Katie McCabe, like huge players, and they've all came through that system at Glasgow City.
So they obviously had this winning mentality, obviously, before you even joined. Did you have that in you before you joined the club, do you think, even though you maybe never had the honours that the other girls had, but did you always have a winning mentality in you, or do you think that was drilled into you from Glasgow City?
I would say that I was always obsessed with winning.
Mm-hmm.
I was always obsessed with winning, but my obsession with winning to then when I went to Glasgow City was a whole different ballgame. Like, losing isn't acceptable. We're here to win, and that's it. So I think it was probably drilled more into me at Glasgow City. I've always had the winning mentality. I hated losing as a kid.
In anything?
Anything, yeah, hated it. Literally playing two-touch with someone out in the back garden.
You'd be raging, yeah.
Raging. Nah, I'm going home.
Was that from your dad?
Maybe it was from my dad.
Because your mum sounds like the nice relaxed
She's pure chilled, honestly.
But your dad's
I was howling the other week and my mum's like, you were brilliant today, hen. I was like, no, I wasn't. So yeah, probably a part of it has came from my dad for sure.
That's, yeah. Did losing then just become completely unacceptable? And I don't mean in Glasgow City, I mean throughout your whole career. Did you carry that into when you went back to Rangers? Did you carry that in as like it's just completely unacceptable to lose, or did Rangers already have that at the time when you went back? Sorry.
Well, when I went back to Rangers, that was them just going fully pro.
Right. Okay.
I know in the history of the club, second place isn't acceptable at Rangers. Like, it's first and that's it.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So I know that as a fan, and I tried to bring that back to Rangers because I was one of the signings that was coming back, who was playing for Scotland, been at Glasgow City for 8 years. So me going back, I was hoping to bring some of that experience and bring a winning mentality at Rangers, which it deserved. Because I think with the club supporting us and going full time, we deserve to be competing. So I tried to bring and instill some of that into the club. And then there was a few players that signed, obviously. My best mate Sam Kerr at the time, who joined Glasgow City, Rachel McLaughlin and Kirsty Howitt. They're top players who are playing for top clubs now. So for us to then go back to Rangers, it was starting to look like, whoa, Rangers are really supporting us here. We've got, that's when the pressure starts to build. You're like, they're signing these key players. So
did you think you maybe got a bit comfortable at Glasgow City because you sort of win everything?
Yeah.
Did you make the move for the challenge, or did you make the move because, let's put it another way, if Celtic came in for you, would that have been a much harder decision to leave Glasgow City if Celtic said, listen, we're going to financially support the women's team and we're going to go and challenge Glasgow City?
I couldn't go there.
Right, okay.
No chance. Not a chance. Would I? No disrespect to
no
anyone, but I literally couldn't.
Okay.
And that's it's just a Glasgow cultural thing. Like, I couldn't think of putting that top on. But they've obviously invested as well, which is great for the women's game. But leaving Glasgow City was hard though. Like, I'll be honest, like, that was a really, really tough decision in my career. It was one of the toughest I've had to make.
Why?
The people, players that I've played with for a number of years, the staff, the work that they put in behind the scenes, I almost felt like I was shafting them a wee bit leaving, and that's me being purely honest. I was quite devastated leaving Glasgow City, and it's probably the first time that I've said that. But bearing in mind, when I was at Glasgow City, I was still working part time. I worked with a company called Life Care, and it was working with dementia patients and whatever, and just giving those families respite. So I was doing that, and then travelling to training it.
Nick, I need to ask, sorry, because did you work as a carer before the Women's World Cup in 2019? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
People find that mental, by the way.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. So I was literally doing that, and it was through in Edinburgh.
Wow.
So But I was just so committed to football, but obviously I needed to live. And you would train me Glasgow City at 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night, so I would be working till about 3. I would drive home for Edinburgh, and then my dad thankfully would help me out a bit and was like, I'll take you to training. My dad literally took me to training right up until before I went to Rangers.
Wow.
He was still driving me to Glasgow because he helped at Glasgow City. He worked there.
Right, okay.
He done like all the kit stuff and stat stuff at the weekend and all that. Like, yeah, he worked closely with Scott Booth. Him and Scott Booth got on really well.
That's crazy, yeah.
But yeah, I was still working, and then obviously when Rangers came in, it's going fully pro. So I was like, Dad, I'm not going to need work. I'm just going to fully focus on football. So that's the bit that probably enticed me to go. Like, didn't get me wrong, I love Glasgow City and won heaps of stuff, like quarterfinals of the Champions League. A little team for Glasgow. Like,
that's what I was going to ask you as well. See, because you were so dominant domestically, what was it like playing these European giants? Because obviously in some countries women's football is even like, it's absolutely massive. Well, England's massive.
Yeah.
But what was it like playing in the Champions League against, well, I don't even know, who's the best team you played against that you can think of in the women's Champions League?
PSG.
Ridiculous.
And we played at the men's stadium as well.
Wow.
Quarterfinals. Battered us there right enough.
Chasing shadows.
Oh God, I'm pretty sure I was playing against the winger, and I went to just go smash her on the sideline. She just like skipped to me and jumped over me, and then later found out that she was actually pregnant. So I was just like, all right, cool.
She was pregnant.
She was like, she had just like was about to announce that she was pregnant, and that was like her last game or something. I was just like, what? I couldn't even catch her sound. but to be honest, we had obviously put out teams like Brøndby. Like that night at Petershill.
Special.
Wow.
Would you say that's probably a highlight of your career?
Oh, for sure, 100%. That's definitely a highlight. 'Cause I remember it was Joe Love scoring the penalty. I think it was Joe Love that scored it to put us through. And like Petershill was sold out that night. Massive nights at the PZ were wild, and just the whole team ran on. And it was literally one of the best nights ever. And we obviously drew PSG, and we were just like, but that
do you think that was pivotal? Do you think that result, knocking them out, do you think that was pivotal for Scottish women's football at the time?
Yeah,
for sure. Put them on the map, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Some of the teams that we played and competed with was unreal. Like FC20, Dutch team, like putting them out and all that. Like, we shouldn't have been able to do that because we weren't fully full-time, which Glasgow City are now. But all these other teams were full-time. Their budgets were far superior than Glasgow City's. So, but just that Scottish culture in it, like we're literally just, we're not here to make up the numbers sort of thing. Like we were going to compete one way or another, and we did. We did.
What was the difference playing PSG compared to Brøndby? What was the difference? What did they have different?
PSG was just that was a giant club. Like were playing at that stadium. I mean, the change room that we had as well. Holy moly! I've never played in a stadium like that.
Did you almost feel like a fan at sometimes? You've been there.
I felt it on the night because we had to play against them for 90 minutes.
Right, my next question. I've got a few questions here. Let's have a look. See your generation. Do you reckon that the girls sacrificed so much of their time where they could have been earning more money full time in a job? Say, do you reckon they've sacrificed everything just to have a shot of football to go full time? Your generation.
My generation.
Because obviously, like you said, you were working as a care worker.
Yeah.
Before going to a World Cup, I think that sounds mental saying that out loud.
Now that you say that, yeah, it's pretty.
That's crazy to go represent your country. You were working part time.
Because I remember doing an interview actually when the squad was announced, and they were speaking and they were like, you're a carer, and like we're speaking about my job, and I'm literally about to represent my country at the World Cup. Madness. That's
just say out loud. I think that's just nuts.
It is when you really think about it. Yeah.
Because yeah, it's just mad. See when you turned professional with Rangers, was it 2020? I think that's what my notes say. I could be wrong. Did you kind of know then that something big was about to happen at Rangers? Did you feel it And I know you said about the signings and everything else, but to turn professional, did you kind of think, right, this is
that was a huge moment. I never ever thought that was going to happen. That Rangers were going to be fully pro with a women's team. If you had asked me that when I was young, I'd be like, no chance. That's never going to happen. But to be fair, the people behind the scenes, they were taking it seriously. They were like, we want the women's team to be at the forefront in women's football in Scotland. And the difference from when I was at First Rangers to now,
different,
night and day. Just, you're obviously in the morning, getting food, training, gym, recovery. Like, what life should be as a professional footballer to make you that 1% better.
When did you win your first trophy at Rangers?
They really went for it the first year, but we didn't win the title the first year. It was the second year. So that was it the second year I won it at Rangers.
That's right.
Yeah. So it took us a year to probably make that transition at Rangers to be like, right, we're fully professional. I think obviously being at the club want us to win it as soon as we went professional. Didn't turn out that way. Glasgow City were still saying we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? It probably made Glasgow City be like, right, okay, we're just going to match whatever you guys do, and it's good for the league.
Yeah,
I think that was brilliant. So Rangers have went fully pro, and then Glasgow City have became better again. You're thinking somebody needs to take that title
for the game.
Do you know what I mean? Like, someone needs to take that title off them.
What was the league title like winning it at Rangers? Did it feel like a relief almost? Because the first year was that investment in the squad and behind the scenes. Did you feel like that was a massive victory, or do you think was it a success or relief almost? Do you think it was a relief to win it because there was that much pressure because of all the investment at Rangers?
There was probably that bit of pressure because you knew that the club were investing, and you don't want them to invest into something that's not working. So, but then there was that relief of finally the Glasgow City dominancy winning the years. What was it, 13 or 14 in a row?
Ridiculous, wasn't it?
Like, unbelievable. So a part of me was like, oh, it was me and Sam and Rachel and Kirsty and all the players that were at Glasgow City we've managed to do it, sort of thing. There was certainly relief and a bit of pressure, so there was a bit of both really, but that feeling that day, because we were unbeaten in that league title win as well. And
was there any bitterness towards you from Glasgow City end?
I wouldn't say bitterness. There was probably a little bit of disappointment from them. I don't know if they thought that I was going to stay there forever, because I was obviously at the club 8 years, so maybe they thought that I was going to stick around for a while. But I think it was maybe just like, oh, Rangers have went full time, you've just got up and left, sort of thing. I don't know. I still get on with them to this day. Like, I speak to the owners and whatever whenever I'm at Glasgow City. There's no bad blood there whatsoever. Because I gave the club a lot of years, working a part-time job, travelling to training. I made a lot of sacrifices to give my all to Glasgow City as well. So I don't think there would be any bad blood there. So, yeah.
Do you think the women's league needed Celtic to catch up as well?
Yeah, I would want as many teams to be up there as possible. I think it's only going to make each club better. That you turn up on a Sunday and you're no guaranteed 3 points. It's super competitive. You look at the WSL, Liverpool could literally go take points off one of the top 3 teams. Do you know what I mean? So that's where the league needs to get to, in my opinion. Of course, I want to be a part of the team that's 3 points every week. This is brilliant, winning titles. But for the good of the game, you need it to be more competitive. And it has been the last number of years. It's went to the last day, which is exciting for the neutral. Not so much me.
Right, I've got some quick-fire questions to wrap us up. Is the Scottish Women's Premier League improving fast enough, or do you think we could put more things in place to accelerate it? And if you could accelerate it, what would you do?
I mean, it's definitely improving, but it needs to improve more. I think Quality pitches need to be better. I think if we are going to be playing on AstroTurf, the AstroTurf needs to be better condition. I think there's some places in the league that are really poor. You look at the games on TV, the Astro looks terrible. I think that needs to improve. I think I would love for one day that every team is professional.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really I mean, it's tough to put into words. Like, I don't want to come across in any sort of way, because I know that it's not as easy as that. I know that there's clubs.
Yeah, it's not condescending or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't want to come across that
far
way.
from it.
But I would just hope one day, for the good of the Scottish game, hopefully when I'm retired and watching the game, and
You'll be coaching.
Every team is literally professional. That's what I would love to see, because I think that would definitely take it to the next level as well.
I agree. Okay. Do you get annoyed sometimes on social media when you see maybe uneducated comments about the women's game? Does that frustrate you a little bit? When people might have a slant at something that they see online about the women's game and they have no real knowledge of the women's game, it's a quick throwaway comment on social media.
Yeah, it does. And that's me being entirely honest. It's one of those things, like, but I always tell myself, would I ever go and ask that person for advice?
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't. So these comments shouldn't bother me, his or hers. It's been both. But I always say, like, it's a tough one, because personally I don't really love, no offence to cricket, I don't really enjoy watching cricket, but I don't go out my way to comment on it on social media. Do you know what I mean? So if you're not a fan of women's football, and if it's came up on Sky, just turn it off.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Just put another game on. But the fact that that's came up on the TV and they've been, let's get right on Twitter. I just don't get it.
Yeah, what they're gaining from it?
What are you gaining from it? Like, I just don't understand it at all.
No, I don't get it either. What's the biggest myth people still believe about women's football?
Myth?
Yeah, I don't even know why I've put that on there. What do you think? Do you think there's any myths with the women's game that people might believe or something? Financially, maybe. Is there much finances in the women's game, unless you're at the top clubs?
Probably unless you're at top clubs down south, I would say. But I think maybe some people in Scotland think that we're on a lot
Millions
more
of pounds
because we play for Rangers. But no, I can't think of any myths. But maybe that is one. Maybe they think that
because you're a professional.
Because we're a professional footballer, we're paid more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right, he's the leadership ones, okay? As captain of Rangers, how do you handle players who aren't meeting standards? How do you handle them? I know you touched on it previously, but standards in training, standards representing the club, how do you make sure that's getting met?
Well, we do also have, so not everything falls back on me. We do have like a leadership group, and I think the players within that group are top. They meet, and we have the same values in terms of standards, whether it's lateness or standards in training. So we're all pretty good together in terms of driving that in training. I think if it always comes from the one voice, i.e. me, the captain, I don't think it's as powerful as like a leadership group. I agree. Because I don't want to just be that moany person just because I'm the captain, I'm the one that's going to moan all the time. I do like a moan. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't moan. But I think as a collective, as a leadership group, driving that with the players that are within that is a lot more powerful.
Okay, I've got two more for you, okay? When you retire, okay, what do you think your teammates and previous teammates will say about Nicola Docherty?
The first one that comes to mind is probably a class clown. Because as much as because this is the thing that they quite like about me, is I'll have a bit of a laugh in that, but see, as soon as it's like switch, I literally become a different person. I think probably class clown's up there, but I think certainly the way that I would like to say and hope that they would say is I lead the team. I would like to say that they would say that I go above and beyond for my teammates, whether that's something if they need help away, or just that if someone's no playing, I make sure that I give them a text and just make sure that they're still in good vibes of the team and stuff. But I hope that is. And do you know what? I see, for all the titles and accolades that I've won as a footballer, I would like to be remembered as a good person.
Yeah, that's more important, eh?
Aye. Winning mentality is 100% there, and winning titles is huge. But see, if someone said, "Nick, you were a good person," I think that means a lot more to me.
I think you'll be remembered more for that.
Yeah.
Okay, final one. Okay. If you could speak to Nicola Docherty as a 9-year-old girl, okay, with all your experience and knowledge of the game now, what would you advise? So if you're thinking about the generation that's coming through now and there's some special talented girls out there, what would your advice be to them?
Well, I touched on it previously when I did do that Q&A with the young girls. My advice to them at that time, and I stand by it, is play with no pressure. Play freely. Play like you're just that kid in the seven-a-side park. Because if you put too much pressure on yourselves this early, sometimes you can crumble.
Mm-hmm.
So play with that freeness and go think that you're Messi with the ball at your feet. Like, we're going to make mistakes. We're no robots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the perfect time to make mistakes. And if you have a dream, go chase it, because I had one and I certainly got what I thought I was going to get.
That's brilliant. Nick, I could have sat here all day talking about that, to be honest, but thanks very much for coming on.
No worries.
I think that'll hit home with a lot of people. And I know there'll be a lot of parents listening to that who've got young girls dying for an opportunity to go and play for Rangers or Glasgow City and stuff like that. So I think it's invaluable. So thanks very much for that.
Opportunities are endless.
Yeah.
Endless now.
So thanks very much. Thanks everyone for listening. That's episode 19 wrapped up. And we'll catch you again soon. Thanks a lot.